Hello everyone and welcome back to a car profile video where we're looking at the GT by Citroen Group 3 car. Now if you do enjoy this video, do give it a like and do subscribe to the channel. Let me tell you about this car then. It has a naturally aspirated engine, okay? The real version of this car, which it's based on, has a Ford V8 in, so make that of what you will. It's an MR car, and in terms of the gearbox, it has 7 gears, so a lot of gears in there as well. There's a low, medium, and high-speed bop for you then, so of course, we're going to do 3 bop tests across those circuits. Seems a bit middle of the road in terms of the bop, and let's talk about the car. Technically, it's based on the very first Vision Gran Turismo car, even though it wasn't called a Vision Gran Turismo car at the time. It was a concept car designed for Gran Turismo. There is a moving road going version, as I've talked about, which has a Ford V8 engine. We're not actually sure what engine is in this, because it says GT by Citroen engine model. Now, you can pick more than one colour when purchasing this car, which is very unusual for the Group 3 machines. It has extremely good brakes in this car. It does suffer with some weight transfer, and obviously that's exponentiated because of the extreme brakes. Anyway, let's head in towards Laguna Seca's low-speed bop test then, and in towards turn 1, where you can see that handling-wise, it just turns and goes, this car. It really does indeed. Now, we are racing the Audi R8 LMS Evo in terms of fastest laps, but remember, we are also looking at Optimums when we look at the overall leaderboard. Now, going through Sector 1 then, 25 thousandths down. That's not too shabby at all, to be honest with you. It's very much there with the Audi R8, and this car does feel very much like a handling car. And we're seeing that here already with Sector 1. We'll see how it goes for the rest of the lap, though. Going through there, no real problems. Let's see what happens when we get to the kink then. As we go into here, drop to 4th gear, through we go. No issues whatsoever in this car. We did have issues, though, at the corkscrew. I had a couple of spins here. You'll notice lap 5 was a 128, lap 3 a 130, and it's mainly because of the corkscrew as I come through here. You notice, you can just see it on the video as well, just how it got a bit light there. 2 temps down now on that Audi. Going through here, though, you can see I'm trying to get it turned in. It's not quite as good at handling as that Audi as I go into this right-hander, and we head towards the end here at Laguna Seca. Going to be hard on the brakes. This car, as I mentioned in the intro, can brake extremely late. One of the last of the late brakers, this car. It really is good on the brakes. As we head towards the line then, what are we doing versus our Audi R8 LMS Evo? Just under 2 temps there. We gained a little bit at the end. 121.373 is our fastest lap. But as I say, we look at Optimums here on the car profile. 1 out lap, 10 fast laps. Let's see where it sits then. And it comes up with P10. So very much up there, competing with the very best then. Only 3 temps off that Mercedes-AMG, which we have to retest, of course. The Audi R8 LMS Evo, currently the car that we're looking against. It's only 2 temps off that as well. So a very good car, this GT by Citroen. Very good car indeed in terms of low speed. We'll see what it's like, obviously, at medium and high speed in a second as we go down the leaderboards then. It's beating a lot of cars here, a lot of cars. And it is very much handling at a low speed bop. We'll see what it's like though at the medium speed bop when we get to that. We do have to think about that weight transfer though. There is some risk driving this car. The corkscrew definitely showed that off, and if you're going to go over any bumps or any sausage curbs, it did fly off as well. Right, okay, that's it for Laguna Seca. We're going to jump to our medium speed bop test now, which is Suzuka, and the medium speed is the critical and the core part of Group 3 in terms of tracks as well. Coming into here, I did suffer. Notice a delayed gear downshift there, and that's because I suffered massively. It just spikes. What would happen is the rear would go, it would catch itself, and it would just spear off to the left. Had that a couple of times here. We're going to go through the S's though here. We're in 4th gear at the moment. I did practice towards the end going down to 3rd gear, which did seem a little bit quicker. But again, I'm showing you the fastest lap. I do try different things during the session to see what we can get, and that's why I take the Optimums. Going through here then, we are 2.5 temps down on that Porsche 911 RSR. Not too shabby at all then as we continue on as 33.7 is about the norm, to be honest with you, as we head towards Tidgney 1. Now, Tidgney 1, through there, it had no issues at all with actually taking a lot of Tidgney 1. And Tidgney 2 as well, no real issues. In fact, I'd argue this is one of the fastest cars through Tidgney 1 and 2. Not really with that sector time there, but I did do quicker sector times as we go into the hairpin. The hairpin here on exit, no real dramas either. Had a tiny bit of oversteer occasionally, but it was a very controllable oversteer, and it's something to keep in mind. Maybe that impacted turn 1, of course, with it being extremely good brakes. Literally, it would lose the rear and catch itself because of the grip, and that's why it sped off to the left. I'm not too sure. With the spoon then, look at this then, the handling, it really does want to turn in compared to previous cars as we slow down nicely then and continuing on out of here. Now we're seeing more of the top speed side. The great thing about Suzuka, first half of the circuit, all to do with handling. Second half of the circuit, all to do with speed. That's why it's a medium speed track. Then as we head towards the line, then we are 3 tenths down on that Porsche 911. So we've not really lost too much there. 149 through 130R. It shows you how good at handling it actually is there. One of the top cars in terms of speed so far as we go into the Castillo Triangle. Third gear exit here. I did try second a few times as well, just to give you an idea. We're going to head towards the line then. What are we going to do then overall in terms of fastest laps? First of all, we did catch up to the Porsche 911 a little bit there. 159.334. Not too shabby at all. I did see a 0.2 down there in the Optimums. Let's see where the Citroen ends up overall then on the medium speed bop test. It's not in the top 10, so it's not quite made that top 10 then. Where does it sit, though? That is the question. It does feel like a very good car here, to be honest with you. Just turn one, it really does struggle there, and I feel that's probably where it loses out. Yeah, as you can see there, 159.199. It's very much up there with the best, but turn one, that is the big area. And I think it's the really good brakes, to be honest with you. Because it's so good on the brakes, the weight's just pushing so far forward in the car. And if you downshift, and that was the critical thing, I was trying to manage the weight as it shifted by delaying that gear shift. If I shift any earlier in terms of dropping the gears, it would just instantly start to oversteer. And I assume that just meant that the rear just had too much weight transfer, just lost the rear grip, and that was the issue in hand. So I had to delay the gear shift, which meant a delayed corner, a very nervous corner, and that's probably slowed it down. I reckon it could get a 58, to be honest with you. I really do in terms of Optimums. Right then, let's kick off with a Bathurst then as we head in towards turn number 1. This is going to be interesting. It really is, because the Citroen, as I've already said, suffers with weight transfer. And we have the dipper to contend with. Before that, though, we are racing the Suzuki Vision Gran Turismo car, which you can see in that bottom right-hand side. The car profile for that was last week. I'll link it at the end of this video, and it did very well here at Bathurst. Right, we are 2 tenths down. As we go into this right-hander then, it did suffer a little bit of understeer on this corner and on exit as well. It did suffer in terms of exit speeds. It just didn't feel like it had enough power to really get up the mountain. Let's go into this braking zone. It did want to go very wide under braking, but then it could come back very nicely. And on exit, it really didn't have any power oversteer issues. This is where the Citroen came into its own though, going up the mountain. I really didn't feel I had any issues at all. It handled itself very nicely. Going down here into the left, it would be a slight lift, but carried on. And coming up to the crest, normally some cars have issues here. Citroen absolutely nailed this. We'll get really close to the wall. Really felt very nice then as we start to head down the mountain. This is where it starts to have issues though. 6 tenths down on the Suzuki. Notice it had a little bit of a wiggle under braking. And as we go towards this dipper, I did suffer a lot here. You'll notice on the right side, some of those lap times being very large indeed. They are crashes that I've had in terms of this car. I did get a couple of good ones in though, which does help with the Optimum, of course, and then identifying where it does sit on that leaderboard. Right, we'll leave Forest Elbow, where it didn't have any issues at all, actually. It was really nice out of Forest Elbow. We're going to head towards the end of Sector 3 then, and we'll see where this Suzuki Vision Gran Turismo is compared to this GT by Citroen car, because that's what we're actually racing here. 6 tenths down then, still on the Suzuki, so we didn't lose too much going down the mountain then as we head in towards the braking zone. Remember, this car is very good on the brakes, so really lasted late breakers. We clipped the curb there very nicely. Going to continue on. Handles itself very nicely in the chase. It really does as we head towards the final corner. Looking for that big tree on the right side. Once again, braking really late there after the tree as we go into this left-hander. We're going to accelerate out of here, though. Bit of a wiggle there on exits. Use all the circuit and a little bit more. Let's see what kind of fastest lap we get there. A 202.6. 7 tenths down on the Suzuki. Not the end of the world, though, in terms of this GT by Citroen. It was just a mountain. It was very difficult over the mountain. So, in terms of this leaderboard, where are we sitting? We're not in the top 10 then, so it doesn't make it into the 201s. Remember, we are looking at Optimums here, not the fastest. So, Suzuki, of course, in P6 at 201.6. Very much a meta car at Bathurst then. We go into the P11 to P20 range. Again, not seeing the Citroen there, so it's not done that well here at Bathurst. That weight transfer really was an issue, and you can see that it's finished in P22 with a 202.2. It was the weight transfer that really impacted it, but we know a lot of the MR cars suffer with that weight transfer. And again, I will talk about Bathurst at the very end in terms of why the circuit has stayed, because some of you are going to go, well, Tidge, you said you wanted to change it because of the MR weight transfer. But some very good comments were made, some very good reasoning. The votes were quite even. There was another track that did win, I will say that now, but it wasn't like a categorical win. There we go, I'll get my words out. Right, okay, we're there with the fuel test now then. So top left, automatic fuel map 1, bottom left, fuel map 3. So if you're automatic drivers, focus on that side. If you're everything, you want to focus on everything here, because we've got the half shift and the emergency fuel saving down in the bottom right hand side. We're testing performance here because this is how you test fuel rates. how fast does it get to the line with the fuel saving. Obviously, that's amplified over many laps, and this gives you an idea then in terms of where it sits. We head to that line then, very close finish then. So top left finishes first there. 48% fuel. That doesn't seem a lot to me, but we'll have to check the leaderboard to be sure. 25.217. However, top right, look at that, the half shift. Very much there or thereabouts there. 25.267. And you can see that there. If you ever wonder why the times are slightly off occasionally, that is a frame rate issue. When you record, sometimes it skips a frame here or there. So do bear with me with that on any occasion. Fuel map 3 is the one that finishes next down in that bottom left-hand side. But as you can see, the emergency fuel saving is looking like it's going to come home very nicely indeed. And the critical thing to notice here is top right, 57%, and bottom left, 56%. And yet the top right is much, much quicker. This is not an automatic car. So if you are going to drive it in automatic, sorry, let me change my mind on that. It's not a fuel-saving car if you're going to drive it on automatic. Get that right, Tidge. Get that right. Right then, so where does it fit here in terms of the maximum RPM? It's not in the top 10 there. Is it in the top 20? Yes, it is. It's just in the top 20. It's tied with the Audi R8 LMS. But key thing to note there, 48% fuel in terms of the Audi R8 LMS 56. It's not good in that fuel usage. It really isn't, as I've just said. And it's not a car I would personally pick in terms of, if it's a fuel-saving race at least, of a car that I would use if I want to get the maximum performance out of it. But let's see what happens in terms of some of the other tests. Right, let's now have a look then at the next table then, which should be the half shift. Now, where is it there? It's not in the top 10 again. So we need to have a look. There's quite a few cars in the 60s though in that top 10, and that's what we need to keep in mind. Let's go to that next page then, and 57% there, 25.267, and literally in the 50s, high 50s. So it's not done too bad, to be honest with you. There are definitely better cars to pick in terms of fuel saving and performance, but it's not the end of the world in that car. These are cars down here, you know, in the high 60s there for the Lexus. That's very good indeed. That needs a retest though. Do keep that in mind. There are quite a few cars who need a retest here, but we're just looking at this as an overall performance. So obviously their fuel rates and fuel tests won't really change that much. Even with a change in BOP, there'll be the odd percent here and there potentially. But we go to fuel map 3 automatic then. Now we know this probably didn't do that well in terms of fuel saving, just because we know the half shift actually saved more than the fuel map 3. And you can see that there. So it's come home in P16. Middle of the road, but you've got a 63 there. It's close to some of the others, to be honest with you. The Jaguar F-Type, the Mazda. It's not that far off, but it's still lower. So do keep that in mind as you go to this page here. There's cars in the 60s, and they ain't that far off the Citroen there. So, you know, Citroen, not a fuel-saving car. Not a car I would pick in a fuel-saving race, that's for sure. But potentially, because it's got 7 gauge, you could short shift all the way to 7th really early, and maybe it would be beneficial. Something to try out, potentially. If you're an automatic driver, though, don't use this car in a fuel-saving race. That's all I'm saying, based on these test results. Not in the top 10 again for the emergency fuel saving then. This is fuel map 3 and half shift. So we get ready for the next page. P13 then, not too shabby. It does go up the leaderboard a tiny bit then. It is a little bit down compared to others. It does beat the Toyota FT1. So you use that car versus a Citroen. There you go. But then there are cars in the 70s down here, which really do fuel save very well indeed. Not really eating the fuel at all, some of these cars. You know, a V10 engine in the Audi R8 doesn't eat fuel. Fuel economy there. It's a green car. Maybe it doesn't get that charge in London. That's the ULEZ zone or whatever it's called. Right, okay, that is the fuel test done then. Next up is going to be the tyre test for those interested in tyres. Right, here we go then. So we're just straight on to the circuit test now. Remember, we have got rid of the new tyre test. Sorry, the oval tyre test. I'll get my words out. It's 11 o'clock at night at this moment in time. Now, what we're going to do is advance all the way to lap number 5, because that's where we get up to here. And I know this has human interaction. I could lock the brakes. I could oversteer. I can tell you this is actually the second time I did the test, because I crashed on the first one. And I will explain that in a second. But you can see the tyres have just run out here. Now, the reason I crashed is that this car becomes extremely oversteery when the tyres get very low. So I did actually crash. Now, to keep that in mind then, this car is no good in a tyre wear race, okay? It really isn't. It just oversteers instantly and causes issues. So where's it going to sit on this leaderboard? It's going to be near the bottom, let's be honest with you. It's not going to be up there with that Toyota Supra. That's insane how well those tyres really don't wear. I say wear, don't wear at the top there. Not in the top 20 then, in terms of the Tyre Wear test. We do have the odd MR car in there. I think it's just a McLaren actually looking at that leaderboard. And then we go to here, P28 then. It isn't good on tyres, really isn't good on tyres. It's not really good fuel car, not really good tyre car, but it is a good sprint car, I suppose, looking at some of the lower medium speed bot tests that we've done. But we are going to see the overall in a second, and we'll see where it finally sits then. So, first up before that is the top speed test, I believe. There we go. So, it's not in the top 10 then. It did seem quite quick. I'm pretty sure from memory it was 170 miles an hour. So, I hope to see it on the next page potentially as we go there. Yes, there it is indeed. So, it's joint 170 mile an hour with a lot of people there. Joint P15 in the end. So, it's with a lot of cars. It's with a lot of handling cars, which makes sense because it is a handling car in itself. So it's been bopped quite well, I would say, in terms of that top speed test. And of course, that's on the high speed bop because it's at Bathurst. There are going to be other top speed tests for you for the medium and low speed. Just bear with me with that. I have mentioned that before. Right, let's go to the final summary then for this car. Let's find out where it sits overall. Is it in the mid-pack? Is it a meta car? Well, it's not a meta car because anything from the McLaren upwards is what we consider a meta car, and it's not quite there. The Renault is obviously very close to the McLaren, but I would call that a lead mid-pack car. And in fact, the Citroen is P3 in the mid-pack. So it's not too bad at all, this car. And I said it during Beat the Meta. It's a pretty good car, to be honest. Very hard to control. It's not a beginner's race car, that is for sure, because you do have to learn to control this car. However, it is up there. It is up there in terms of a car, race car. It can give a good race where it needs to, possibly a good choice for you if you want the challenge of this very weight transfery MR car from the future, because it's very futuristic indeed in terms of its looks. Now let's quickly just talk about Bathurst then. A lot of people made a lot of suggestions. A lot of people said about Sardinia. I did think about Sardinia, but it is quite I don't even know what the word is, unique in terms of that it's more top speed than handling. So I felt like it was a bit unique in that regard. So we talk about Spa. Spa is very much like Suzuka. A couple of people pointed that out actually, and I do understand that. It also has a problem with the bus stop chicane and mountain curbs, and that actually becomes an issue as well. I completely forgot about that, to be honest, when I put the vote up, so I do appreciate that comment. A lot of people said, yes, the MRs have weight transfer at Bathurst, but actually the car profiles, the point is to discuss the problems with the car. It's not just all about the test, which I actually agree with. And it actually makes more sense now because we don't actually have to look at the overall times across all three circuits to actually get a good picture. We've got the low speed test. We can have a look at that. We've got the medium. We can have a look at that. And we've got the high, and we can have a look at that. There's not many high speed tracks at all. So it's actually quite unique in itself anyway, the high speed bop test. And as some of you have said, why waste some of the effort that you've already put in? So that's why we're staying with Bathurst, folks. I do hope you don't mind that at all. To be honest, I looked at it. I looked at a lot of comments, looked at a lot of reasons. I still to reply to some of them. I did read them as I went. I do appreciate all the comments that you've made with those tests. I really do appreciate the just the time you put in to vote and actually comment on that. That's going to be it for this car profile load. There is another car profile load if you want to check that out, or the Beat the Meta, where I raced this car at Trial Mountain, if you want to check that out as well. If you haven't seen your car tested yet, let me know in the comments. I have got an order for the cars to be updated, those that have had changes, but that's going to be it for me, folks. Big thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in another video or live stream again very soon.